All right. Welcome back. I see a couple of people here who were here before. I see Desiree. I know you already know my spiel about the Q&A and the chat and all that, but I'm going to repeat it for everyone. But welcome back to this iDTX session. We are here with Simran Dhupar, who is going to present on career coaching for new and tenured professionals. But before we get started, just to cover some of the features of Zoho, because it's a little different than Hopin, there is not a chat feature. However, there is a Q&A feature, which both myself and Simran can see. So if you have any comments, questions, please feel free to pop those in to that Q&A feature, and we will address those the best that we can. I am not Tom McDowell. I am Ricky Fisher, and I am happy to be here because he can't be in two places at once. So I'm acting as host in the Zoho sessions today. I'm happy to help with anything that I can. But without taking much time away from Simran, I want to go ahead and introduce her. She is joining from India, and she is the Associate Learning and Development Manager at Gartner. And so go ahead, Simran, take it away, and I'm just here if you need anything, all right?
Perfect. Thanks so much, Ricky. Appreciate you being here and handling the platform. Hi, everyone. For all of you who've joined in, I see Carolyn, Desiree, I hope I'm getting your names correct, and Harriet and Myra. I really appreciate all of you joining in, and thank you again, Ricky, for the introduction. So just to add on to what Ricky mentioned, as you must have heard, I'm tuning in from India. So it's somewhere around 8:30 p.m. my time, and I couldn't spend my evenings better than being here with all of you. So today we're going to talk about a lot of interesting things, and this one topic is something that I have dealt with a lot in my career, not just in my organizations, but even one-on-one on LinkedIn. By the way, I'm a huge LinkedIn buff, so you might hear me bring those examples time and again, but that's one platform that I swear by. It's worked really well for me in terms of career coaching. But today we're really going to focus on how do you coach tenured professionals. This is this one sweet little group in an organization that have been through a lot of professional milestones. They've achieved a lot in their life. And now the next question that they're really wondering on is that I've done everything I possibly could, right? I've gotten those promotions in, I've achieved those skill sets. What would you recommend next? So I'm just going to take a minute here and have a look at the Q&A, and I would want you to tell me how many of you have actually heard this question in your career. It could be someone asking you this question, or you asking somebody this question that, okay, I've done so much, I've come this far, what next am I supposed to do? I don't really know. So I'll just give a 30-second pause in here before I move on. And just give me a quick yes or no in the Q&A feature. We'll use that as the chat. I know Ricky told me that there's a little bit of a lag, so I'll just give it a little more extra time before we get rolling. But anyone here who's heard of these things before and they're like, okay, we've heard of it, we want to know more. I just hope everyone's able to use the Q&A, just confirming on that too. Perfect. So as I move on, while we get the questions rolling, when we talk about career coaching, especially for tenured professionals, it's very important to remember all of the experiences that they're coming in with, all of the knowledge and the expertise that they're coming in with. And many of you here who've been coaches in the past, right? You must have been a coach in some capacity. It could have been in your organization, it could have been for a peer that you're working with, or some random one-on-one you had on LinkedIn, right? So I'm sure all of you have been a coach in some capacity. The first thing that you should remember about career coaching, especially for a tenured professional or a seasoned leader, is to balance guidance and self-discovery. Many times they have an assumption that, oh, we know everything about our career, we have it all figured out. I don't think we need any more self discovery. And so they're pushing you to guide them, and they can challenge you at times and be like, you tell me, what am I supposed to do? You tell me what the next step should look like. But your role as a coach, whenever you're working with a seasoned professional, is to balance it out with guidance and self discovery. It's a tricky one because you might fall into the trap of giving them too much guidance because you kind of feel scared, right? Especially when you know that they have more experience, they've been in the business for longer than you have. You might have a tendency to overcompensate and give them too much advice. My first tip here would be to hold that confidence and push them to self discover before you give any guidance, right? Now, how exactly would you do that? Let's have a look and let's move on just a bit. But before we do that, I actually have a question. We've been talking about how career coaching gets a little complicated, right? As you move on in your tenure, there are so many experiences, a lot of biases as well that come in. And if you're coaching someone who's had 10 years, 13 years of experience, it can be a very funny situation sometimes. Let's take a pause and let's think on, as you move up the ladder or as you grow in your tenure, why does career coaching lose its charm? Think through from your own experiences, maybe something you've felt in the past few years. Why do you think career coaching loses its charm as you grow up in your tenure? My eyes are on the Q&A. I'd love to hear what you think. I do see the responses coming in now, so there's surely a little bit of a lag, but I will still wait in. So I see Ricky mentioning maybe you feel like you've heard it all already. That's the most obvious and the most common response we get to this question, that, I know it all. I mean, what more could I actually need? The lack of coaching and career intelligence by colleagues isn't worthwhile nor supportive. You don't have the people who know how to coach you, right? So that can be a challenge, it can be a trigger. I love that. Many other reasons that I've heard from some of the top leaders, be it in Gartner, be it in my previous roles at Deloitte, at SHL, at Mercer, all of these consulting buffs out there. A lot of reasons coming in. The first one, the most obvious one, that, oh, we know it already. What more do you have on the table for us, right? The second one being that I don't have time for my own career coaching. I am too busy coaching other folks in my team, right? People are like, oh, I'm a leader now. I need to look after others' careers. And so my career is no more a priority. So working with such people can get really tricky because you're not able to build that rapport, you're not able to build that connection, and you cannot tell them why do they actually need career coaching, especially if you've identified something that they should be coached on. And the third one, which is my personal favorite, especially because I am not a very tenured professional. I come with 4 years of work experience. For some people, that might be a lot. But if you're working with leaders, I've worked with leaders who've been in the business for 20 years, 30 years, even more. And at that point of time, there's this bias that comes in, the lack of self-confidence that comes in, where you're like, I am in no position to coach this person because they have way more experience, way more knowledge coming in. And so that self doubt kicks in. And that's exactly where the whole career coaching piece crumbles down to dust, right? You're not able to provide them with that advice because you feel underconfident. And that's something which we all are struggling with, but we can do some work at the back of it as well. And that also connects back to what Caroline mentions, that we're not able to understand how can we go past that barrier. We don't have that kind of intelligence, and we're very focused on that fear, on that, and discouragement, on that underconfidence. So today we'll definitely take back some tips and something that I have done in my career to still be able to have a stand, irrespective of how tenured my coachee really is, right? So I love using characters whenever I'm talking to people. I love stories, I love characters. So let's meet Amalia. Now, of course, because I come from the learning and development industry, I had to use up this example. And this is based on a real life story. We're not giving out any confidential information, but this is one person that I met with and I coached through my experience. And they were having 13 years of experience versus me having just 4 years of experience of being in this industry. It surely was a tricky one because I got a lot of curveballs coming my way that, okay, I already know this. What more do you have? Why should I listen to you? I'm way more senior than you are. Why is your advice helpful and important? And it wasn't easy, to be very honest, but we did some things here and there that made it work effectively in the end. And it pushed Amalia beyond her mindset that she's reached saturation. One thing which I'd like to tell all of you is that there is no saturation when it comes to your career. There's always something more for you to learn, for you to apply and absorb, irrespective of how senior you get in your organizations, right? So coming back, and this example, by the way, can apply to any industry. It's not very L&D restricted. It could be any industry, any role, any area that you're coming in from. So just adapt it and get thinking on this idea. Now, if you're working with somebody like Amalia, who comes up to you and be like, I don't think there's anything more for me to do, a very simple approach that I would recommend and something which I've applied by myself is these three steps that you see on the screen: to glorify, to nudge, and build on. Now, what exactly does this stand for? So today, we're not doing any fancy coaching frameworks, we're not doing models, nothing of that sort, really. We're sticking to the basics. So, as I move on to the next screen that you see, these are little things that tap onto the psychology of those people. So, fun fact, I come from a business psychology background. So, a lot of my time is spent actually applying those psychological principles to change the mindset of these people. As people stay in an organization for years, they kind of develop a certain mindset. And if you're trying to coach them on their careers, the first step is to get into that mindset and start changing the wiring a little bit. And glorify, nudge, and build on is exactly how you would do that. So let's just see what that could look like. First things first, tenured professionals, all seasoned leaders, they love talking about what they've already achieved in their life. This has happened with me. It's happened with a lot of other coaches in my organization. So, the best way to get started is to glorify all their experiences and efforts so far. Even if you think they've not done a fabulous job, it's important that you start with celebrating everything that they've done already and then just layering your advice on top of it. If you don't acknowledge all the experiences or the knowledge that they have, they would not feel welcomed enough. So it's important that you start by making it all about them. Keep glorifying things that they've done, call out all the great things that they've done, and that will create that strong impression. It will create that nice space for you to work with an experienced professional. The next one, this is an interesting one where you nudge them with healthy comparison. Many times people question comparison. They question it and be like, why should I be comparing people? I mean, that's not healthy. We're pushing them, we're forcing them. It's about being very strategic, being very smart with how you compare them. Now, an interesting thing that I have learned about seasoned professionals, about leaders, is that if you tell them somebody's better than them, it's the best encouragement to get them going, right? So we've got to be very smart of how do you compare them, how do you bring certain inspiration to them, and then push them and nudge them to become like that person. So if I take the example of Amalia, for example, this is actually a person that I worked with recently. And I just went and told them, I was like, oh, I was actually speaking to XYZ person and they're doing a fabulous job in, learning this new technology in learning and development. Have you tried doing that? And that immediately prompted her and be like, oh, there's someone doing something that I haven't. And that's an alarm enough that there is something you can be coached on. So nudging them with that healthy competition is a great idea. And the last one would be to build on by breaking the boundaries. One interesting thing and a little bit of hard work, a little bit of effort that you would have to put is to let go of your blanket rule. You unfortunately or fortunately cannot use the same coaching programs that you use for your new hires, that you use for your early professionals, similar to your tenured professionals. There has to be something different. They have to be more customized than usual. The best part to go about this is to ask them what kind of initiatives are they looking for, ask them what kind of tasks are they looking to work on. Challenging them is the best thing that you can do because they love problem solving. They love to be challenged and pushed out of their comfort zone. It's just all about taking that initiative and just actually pushing them beyond their boundaries. So glorify, nudge, and build on, three very simple things that you could get started with when you are working with experienced professionals. Now, I'm sure most of you here have heard of the term FOMO, and that's something which we don't really like, right? We're like, oh, we don't want to experience it, it's not great. But sometimes, only sometimes, and in this situation out here, FOMO is actually helpful. So this is no scientific model. It's something that I've created on my own. Something easy to remember, easy to pick up that you could take back. And these are four simple steps again that you could use to build a strong coaching experience the next time you're working with seniors, with leaders, with people who have more experience than you do. The first one being finding and highlighting upcoming trends. Now, as I mentioned, the fact that somebody knows more than you do is a great alarm for a lot of professionals. It's funny because a lot of us assume that everyone has their own journey, they have their own path. That's absolutely correct and very highly encouraged. But there's still that sweet spot where people are always comparing themselves to others. So why not build onto it in a healthy and smart way? So find things that are happening in the industry and take it back to your leaders and be like, have you done this before? Have you tried it before? Wherever there's an answer no, it's immediately an area for them to grow. And it creates that question in their mind that, oh, I think I should be working on it, shouldn't I? Now, one thing that you should do as a coach in these situations is stay updated yourself, right? To be able to go back to them with these trends, you would have to stay updated as well. Now, where can you go to get these trends coming in? Newsletters are my favorite resources to use. LinkedIn groups is second, where you get so much information coming in. And interestingly, I've also met Ricky on one of the learning and development LinkedIn groups, and there's so much we've learned from each other from that group as well. And you can always take back that information to your coaches, right? The next one being literally outright question them. Make them think about what their vision for their life is, right? Despite how much tenure anybody's had, there always is a vision that they're looking to achieve. Questioning them will literally bring them face to face with what am I going to do next? And that question troubles a lot of our tenured professionals. It's something which I learned when I worked with a lot of leaders. And so literally when I'm starting a coaching conversation with, a leader who, let's say, has 10 years of experience and an expert, I'm like, okay, so what are you looking to do next? There can be two situations in this case. The first one being that they do not have an answer at all. That's again an alarm to them that you should be thinking about where you want to go. And if they don't have a very clear answer, that's your opportunity as a coach to further probe them and fill those gaps with your advice. But always, always start with questioning them first. Next up would be again to make it about them by evoking those positive emotions. Everyone's done something great in their life already. And if you appreciate that, if you celebrate that, that acts as a very strong foundation. Now, how exactly do we do that in Gartner, for example? We ask them to host sessions for newbies in the business. That's the most easiest and the most effective way of doing it. let's say you have a leader who's excellent in Excel, Microsoft Excel, right? We just walk up to them and be like, we think you're fabulous in Microsoft Excel. How about you go teach this group of people about some of the top tips and tricks about Microsoft Excel? That just shows them that people are recognizing what I'm already doing well, and they're more open to be coached. They're more open to advice because they realize that whatever they've done in the past is not unnoticed. It is coming in the limelight. And everybody does love some limelight, so that's very important. And finally, outlining the right opportunities. This is where a coach's homework increases a little bit. It's about understanding, it's about breaking down all the information that you get from your coachee, from that leader, from that senior professional, breaking it down as much as possible, and then finding the right opportunities. A great way to go about this is to ask them, firstly, on what kind of opportunities are they looking for in the first place, right? You need to get their perspective before you move on. So it should be a dual way street, shouldn't be a one way, because that's not going to be the most effective method of moving forward. So the next time you meet with a coachee who's been in the industry, in the business for years, take this FOMO framework, try adapting it to your conversations, and I'm sure you will have a conversation starter. You will find that starting point for your coaching relationship. Now, for all of you here in, next up, there's a question which is really, really popular in the coaching world. Anybody who's been involved in any kind of coaching must have heard of this question. Anyone here who's heard of the question, and what else? From a coaching standpoint, the question, and what else? Alrighty, I'm just standing in on the Q&A. Awesome. So I see Maureen mentioning, yes, she has. So I'm sure there must be something that hits you on the next screen that we see. One thing that you should take away, if you can't take away anything else from the last 30 minutes, is this one question, right? And what else? Now, whenever you're starting to work as a coach, you have a lot of tendency to fill in the gaps and provide solutions very easily. Now, this could lead to a lot of roadblocks. You've not understood what your coach is looking for. You've not understood what the actual coaching areas of that leader is. So always, always probe them first to think about things that they've never thought of before. Whenever you're planning a coaching conversation, and this is what I do on a personal level, I don't keep a lot of questions on the first conversation. And I literally keep repeating this question. Okay, and what else? And what else do you think you need to do? Okay, in addition to that, what else do you think you could work on? You have to keep pushing them. It might get redundant. You might feel that, oh my God, it's the same question again and again. But that's really the key to making it work out. It is, again, tying back to the idea of self discovery. The best way to create a strong coaching experience is to get the answers from the person you're coaching. Because if you keep telling them what they should do, it's a more directional, it's a more instructional coaching experience that does not work really well, especially with tenured professionals. The key to a strong coaching experience, especially for a tenured professional, is to get the answers from them. So the initial few coaching sessions, if I may say so, must stick to this question, and what else? Now you can change it, you can adapt it. This is your conversations. But this is one thing which I would really want you to take away from this session. That's, I think, all I had from my side for today. So I'm really glad you stopped by. And I see that there are 5 more minutes left on the session right now. I'm happy to take any questions in the Q&A. I'm sure time permits us to do that. But Ricky, I'll hand it over back to you because that's all I had from my side right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simran. And if you have any questions, please feel free to pop those in the Q&A and we'll keep an eye on that to see if anything comes up. Just want to remind you of a couple of things. Over in the hop-in, of course, you can see a list of our sessions, which you probably have already seen because you found this one, right? But there are 2 sessions going on at the same time for most of the day today. So keep an eye on that. Look ahead, pick out those sessions you want to go to. And you're always welcome to hop back and forth between the 2. And if you go back to hop in on the left-hand side, you will see a tab that says sessions. So Simran, I believe, will be available in the session labeled Meet the Speakers. And so if you have any questions or just want to meet Simran or thank her for her time, please feel free to pop in over there, and I'm sure she would be happy to meet with and chat with anyone who pops in. And I'm not sure how long she'll be over there, so I'm not committing all her time to that. But in the next few minutes, if you want to pop over and say hey, I'm sure she'd love to meet you. How can people connect with you or ask you questions outside of this if they think of something later?
Yeah, absolutely. I can drop in the link to my LinkedIn profile. I'm more than happy to connect in there. So feel free, drop in whenever you wish to. And I'd be happy to set up some time one-on-one for a conversation, anything that really helps, more than happy. But this is where you could get in touch with me.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And I believe if you go under the speakers on the Hopin site, you can also find LinkedIn links there, as well as links to websites for those who have those. So thank you again, Simran, and thank you everyone for attending. And yeah, we'll hope to see you at some future sessions as well. All right.
Thanks so much, everyone, for your time. Take care.